us to walk with God effectively, there is a path that has been marked for us. The instant you see what Jesus has for you, where you need to walk, where you need to stand, your salvation becomes better. Tell your neighbor, the instant you know where God wants you to walk, where He wants you to stand, salvation becomes real, practical. Every step you take today has been ordained before you were born. It means that everything that we are doing in our generation, in our lives, from the time you are born to the time you will leave this earth, was what? Predestined, planned ahead. So, after you are born, you need to find your way to God's schedule for your life. The reason why life becomes demanding, difficult, challenging, even depressing to many is because mankind, they want to craft their way. That's why life is difficult. As long as you are walking where God has suggested, life will be manageable. It will not be easy, it will not be difficult, but it will be what? Within God's strength. So, an active Christian with active faith and a pure and healthy relationship, they understand that every step must be suggested. You don't walk as you please. You don't talk or communicate what you desire. In every situation, you consult God's Spirit. What does Jesus say about my immediate situation? So, this is what 2025, a year of celestial order, a year that God wants to bless His people. The question is, will you be part of the people that will receive from God? Because God does not walk with rebels. As long as you remain in His roadmap, on His path, on His schedule, you will carry the load with you. Are you within His schedule and roadmap? Ask your neighbor, are you within God's schedule and roadmap? If you are to overcome in this 2025, you need to be where? Within His roadmap. Jesus is waiting for you at the end of your life, praying, interceding that you remain on the roadmap. He's waiting where? At the end of your life, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, praying and hoping that you remain where? On the path that you have crafted. Living your life outside what God has suggested is invitation of affliction and destruction. That's why most of us, we are depressed. We can't wait to enter the coffin because there is so much happening to us. And we are without control because we are outside God's schedule. Your life is such a big project that if you were to attempt it without God's assistance, it will destroy you. Tell your neighbor, your life is such a complex project that if you can attempt it without God Almighty, it will destroy you. Many people are destroyed. They are just waiting for a period where we'll carry them to the cemetery. Because they did what? They took a divine project and they made it personal. You know, every day you meet these young people saying, this is my life. At the end, that life destroys them. This is my life. I choose what to do. I'm building my life. Where? How do you build what has already been built? You can't build what has already been built. Without your permission, you found yourself here. You never applied to come to earth. You found yourself here. And without permission, you'll be taken out. It means your life was constructed and it was completed and you were given the privilege to walk it. You are simply doing what? Walking across your life, but your life does not belong to you. That's why if you kill yourself, you go to hell because it's a crime. You have destroyed what does not belong to you. Are you listening? You don't own anything. That's why it is important to know where he wants you to walk. To know the path that is anointed for you. You don't walk anyhow. Do you know even the woman you have to marry must be chosen by God, not by you? Some of you are going through so much trouble because you chose a woman that is toxic to what God wants to do in your life. Everything you try to do, she destroys it because this woman was not wired to be part of the project. Vice versa. Even other women have married wrong people. What God have sent them to do, they cannot do it because these people were wired differently. Imagine a lion trying to marry a fish. They cannot be compatible. The other one prefers water. The other one prefers the wild. How can they cohabit? Because they were wired differently. Same way, most of you have married people that were not supposed to be in your life. Because you saw beauty, you fell in love. Are you sure that your life cooperates with God? Ask your neighbor a question. Are you sure that your life cooperates with God? It is possible to be his child, to be in his house, and yet be in rebellion towards God because of the decisions that we make. Relationship is key in walking with God. Christianity, salvation, becomes a destructive project when we enter into it without relationship. The title of my message: Vision Beyond Sight. It is possible to behold and yet not see. It is possible to look and yet yet not have the ability to comprehend what you are looking at. The Bible says in the book of Exodus 40, when the children of Israel lifted up their eyes, they saw Pharaoh and his armies approaching. The Bible says they were filled with fear. They started to panic and cry out. Moses shouted and said, "Be still. Trust God. The Egyptians you see today, you will see no longer." Both sets of people had eyes to see, but only one had vision. They all saw the Egyptians approaching, but the Israelites only had sight, but not the privilege to see vision. Vision is the ability to see beyond what you are looking at. They saw Pharaoh coming. They became afraid because beyond that event, they could not see anything. But the one who could see beyond the armies of Egypt said to them, "Deploy your hearts to faith." This is what "be still" means. When Moses said to them, "Be still," you are saying, deploy your heart to faith, connect to God, so you may be able to see what God is looking at. Most of us in our generation, our salvation is hampered, marriage hampered, career broken, sick business, because we cannot look past what we see. We can only see, but we cannot have vision. Without relationship, proper relationship, active relationship with Jesus, we will only see trouble, circumstances, murder, death, but God's agenda will be far from us. Had they seen what Moses saw, there would have been peace and cooperation in the camps of Israel. This is a key, a secret for many of God's generals. The Bible says, after Job lost everything, his wife said to him, "Curse your God and die." He said, "You speak like a foolish woman." Because Job, not only did he have sight, but he had vision. There is a place where we function like God, where we see what God is looking at, and this place is a realm of vision. Are you able to see what God is looking at? Ask your neighbor, are you able to see what God is looking at? Or you are just a Christian because you read the book? Most of you here, you are a child of God because you prayed the prayer, you read the book, but in functionality, you are far apart from God. You don't have a relationship with God. You only have a relationship with what He said. Tell your neighbor, most of you, you don't have a relationship with God. You only have a relationship with what He said. What have He said this morning? People who carry God's Spirit by divine relationship, they know what God is saying. beyond what is written. As your relationship with God deepens, your functionality, spirituality expands. Tell your neighbor, as your relationship with Jesus deepens, your spirituality expands. Are you sure you have a relationship with Jesus? Because most of you are panicky because you can't see what God is looking at. Some of you, God has solution standing before your door, but you can't see it because you and God, you are not in the same atmosphere, in the same realm. What God has already answered, you are still asking for because you are a blind Christian. It is difficult for a blind Christian to follow God because they will keep missing the point. Some of you are still asking for something that God told you He will not give you, and you are still begging for that thing. You are still begging for that thing, and this is rebellion. Some of you are complaining about your job. God told you long time to resign and walk away. You are still there praying for grace, and God said, have I not spoken? Some of you are sitting in a place where you were supposed to live long time, and you are still asking. You need to ask God for grace that you see beyond what you behold. You can have eyes and still not see what God is showing you. You can pray and still pray against what God is suggesting. I'm sure your prayer is aligned to what He wants for your life. Your decisions, your choices, are they what? In line. Moses became comforted even when he saw the greatest army of his time approaching. He became comforted because Moses knew the end result. He said to them, hold your peace, be still, be still. To walk with God and become His child with a healthy and functional relationship, you need to see what He's looking at. Do you see what God is showing you? 2025.